Welcome to Go Get Great, the podcast for aspiring entrepreneurs and ambitious small business owners. I'm your host, Brittany, owner of Brittany Miller Socials and mother of 3. Go Get Great is all about helping you make life and business work together. You'll learn about the fumbles that helped get me and my guests to where we are today so you don't have to make them. So come join the journey with Go Get Great. If you've ever caught yourself saying, oh my goodness, it takes so long to create content, I don't know why I do this anymore, this episode's for you because we are going to talk about the 3 reasons why creating content takes you way longer than it needs to. So if you're new around here, my name is Brittany. I'm an online marketing strategist. I help business owners get seen, loved, and paid online, and part of that does require some content creation, but I am a firm believer that you do not need to spend all of your time creating content. So we're going to talk today about some of my favorite ways to help make the content creation process easier. So the first thing that I really want to talk about, one of the reasons why it's taking you longer to create content, is that you are not clear on your business, like your core business fundamentals. And you'll be like, no, Brittany, I know what I'm selling and all those things. And it'll be like, okay, well, you might really understand what you're selling, which is great, but that's only one piece of it. And if you are not really clear on your messaging about what you do, who you serve, how to talk directly in a way that makes your ideal clients go, oh my God, that's me. How did she know that? Then your messaging is not clear and it's going to take you longer to create content. So this will look like things like not knowing what text to put on a reel or not knowing how to write your captions. So if you don't understand your messaging and how to communicate very clearly, quickly, and easily who you are, what you do, who you serve, how you help people, and what they need to do to work with you, it's going to take you a really long time to create content. And in and around that kind of messaging piece, I'm also going to add in branding. So branding and messaging kind of go together in the world of social media content creation, because you might be able to clearly articulate who you are, but if your people can't very clearly identify your content when they're scrolling very quickly in your feed, it doesn't matter how clear your messaging is. If they're not going, oh, I kind of recognize, or oh, I recognize the visuals or the colors or the font or whatever in the content, and be like, oh, I know that it's Brittany Miller Socials or insert X business name, they're not going to stop and read the very awesome messaging that you have. So those 2 pieces really go very closely together. And I find that business owners often skip the step of nailing these 2 things really well because they're so busy figuring out what they do and then facilitating their services and then going out and trying to find more customers and things like that, that they're like, oh yeah, I understand this. And I've been guilty of this at times too. And they kind of gloss over these fundamental, oftentimes called market research steps of figuring out what their clients' pain points are and the specific verbiage that people use when they explain what they're struggling with and what they're searching for to get results and the ideal state of where they kind of want to be. And oftentimes too, people really focus on my products includes X feature. People don't care about the feature. They care about what the feature does for them. So oftentimes people are messaging their content wrong because they're focusing on the physical qualities and characteristics of the product or service they sell and not the transformation that they provide. So that all ties into your messaging, which is why so many people struggle with this and get it wrong, even though they think that they've got it right. Sorry, kiddo. I'm moving around and you're jumping. And it's really important that you spend a lot of time figuring this out. So if you haven't done a very detailed, ideal client avatar exercise, or if you haven't hired a copywriter to do a brand voice guide for you, chances are that there's room for growth in the messaging and branding area for your business, because your content that you're creating, that you're spending your time creating, is likely not converting the way that it should. So then you're like, this isn't working. So then you end up taking longer to create content, more content, different content, because the stuff that you've posted isn't working. Whereas when you spend the time investing in figuring out how to communicate, like I said, who you are, what you do, who you serve, how people work with you, all those wonderful things, and your content is going to perform better, and then you can recycle it. and you don't have to post as often because you're getting the desired results from it. So you end up spending longer creating content because your content isn't doing the job that it's supposed to because you haven't done the foundational kind of pieces for it. So messaging is really one of the big ones. Like I mentioned, branding is super important too, because people need to be able to identify it. So it's beyond just like the colors that are in your business, but it's the fonts and things like how you style it, what kind of like text hooks or transitions and things like that that you use. There should be like a very easily identifiable visual recognition of the content that you create, and having that in place also makes it easier and faster for you to create content because you're kind of just keeping the same like template and formula and swapping out the actual like visuals and text in it. That's going to make it so much easier. So you really need to nail your visual branding and your visual content creation representation and kind of basically get it to almost like a formula or template that's going to make it easy for you to sub things out. So that's kind of the number one reason that your content is taking longer. You don't have those fundamental pieces in place. In addition to that, a second really, really big thing is that you just don't have a big enough B-roll library. So this is a huge one. A lot of content can be done really well, really effectively, high converting with B-roll content. But most businesses don't have a very large base of high quality images. So these are like your brand photos. So if you haven't ever done a branding shoot in your business, you need to do one. You need a bare minimum basics, but honestly, I really recommend you try and plan something once a quarter if you can. Understand that a lot of businesses don't have the budget to go out and hire a photographer to come and take photos for them once a quarter. So do what fits your budget, but like at least plan one day a quarter, or if you can, you could do smaller sections once a month. Where you're physically like get yourself ready, you go out, you take pictures, you shoot some B-roll video clips, and you put it in like a Google Drive or something. I store mine in a Google Drive, sometimes in Asana, and have that stuff ready to go. So if you wake up one day and you have a really great reel idea, you don't have to then get yourself ready, get the phone set up, go somewhere else if you don't want to phone video or take photos at home to shoot this 15-second video clip that you need. You have it all ready to go, and you can just plop it into your now ready to go branded templates with your text and your caption, and off it goes. It will drastically reduce the amount of time it takes you to create content when you spend the time to build a really solid like B-roll photo library. That's a really big thing. And any business owner can do this. You don't need to be a photographer or have a videographer on hand for B-roll content. Like use my iPhone. Like I have an iPhone, and you can use Android phones too. It's not that they're bad or anything. It's just I have an iPhone. And you just really try and just make sure like your lighting's good and it's like focused and centered on whatever it is that you're doing in the B-roll, and just shoot some clips. And don't make it super complicated. Try and make your clips between like 0 and 30 seconds long, and do like a variety of different things. You picking up a coffee cup and taking a drink. Take a short video of you like getting in and out of your car, or if you driving. Obviously do it safely. It's better if you're actually in the passenger seat for this. Or if you're not like actually driving, you're just like fake driving for the video. Take some videos of you on a client call or creating social media content. Do stuff of you working. Take video clips of your personal life too, because those translate really well, because that's like the story of the business. So you cooking, cleaning, doing dishes, folding laundry, hanging out with your kids if you're cool with having your kids' faces on social media. Get better at filming in public, because you're going to need to do that. Film clips of you buying groceries or going shopping, or literally anything that you do is content. You probably heard people say everything is content, everything is content. Legitimately, everything is content, especially B-roll content. So just start getting in the habit of filming yourself doing some of these things and putting it in like a Google folder so that you can very quickly and easily pull it up and it's ready to go. You know that you look good. You don't have to worry about videoing or getting ready or all those things. Have that stuff ready to go. Now, I'm not saying that 100% of your content can be created just as B-roll, but having B-roll ready to go is going to make it a lot easier. And if you're posting, let's say 3 days a week, at least one of those videos, if not two of them, can be B-roll videos. If you can have some time where you're doing a couple like talk to camera video moments that make it feel like you're having like a real intimate conversation with your followers, those are going to perform really well. Those ones obviously need to be a little bit more planned and a little bit more scripted, so you're going to have to kind of record those, which is why if you can plan like an hour or two once a month where you go out and film all that stuff, or film it at home, whatever works for you, that's going to be easier because you have that time where you're mentally, at least for me, I'm mentally in the headspace to record, because I can have great ideas and I can know that I need to record it for social media, but there are certain times, especially in like my fall and winter months, in terms of like period cycles, where I'm like, I'm not recording content. It doesn't matter how much you need it. I'm not doing it. That's not where my energy is aligned. I don't want to do that right now. I'm not going to force myself to do it because it's not going to convert anyway. People can tell when you're half-hearted content. Like they know, they know. So don't plan it for the times when you feel excited and energetic and you want to do this stuff, and then do it then. Which brings me to the third reason that it's taking you longer to create content. It's that you don't have content pillars, content buckets, whatever, content topics, whatever you want to call it. There's 1.5 million different names out there. It's basically saying that you don't know what you're talking about, which sounds bad, I know, and I don't mean it in a condescending way, but you need to know what type of post topics and themes you're going to be talking about. So I know a lot of people have been giving flack to the term content pillars lately because they're like, it's very generic, it's not specific. And like, I understand that, and they're not wrong, but also to a point, I'd rather you have something than nothing. So if you can be like, okay, well, I have a content pillar that's education, and I have a content pillar that's entertainment, and then another content pillar that's like behind the scenes, that's a great first step. If you don't have any, you haven't even got to that point, figure that out first. But then once you have those content pillars, I want you to get really specific about what each of those looks like. Because, okay, you're educating, but what are you educating people on? What is the outcome you want them to have, the aha moment? And then break that down to be like, as an example, I want people to understand how email marketing helps them generate consistent revenue in their business. Like, that is a very specific, tangible outcome that I want people to have. And within that, some of the content that I'm going to be creating, so it's like the content pillar is like education/email marketing. And then that's like the key takeaway that I want people to have. And then within that, I'll have specific topics and themes that I'm going to recycle. So I'm going to talk about how email marketing fits in your marketing ecosystem, why email marketing is important, how to not be spammy with email marketing, because that's a really big hang up that all people have with email marketing. Oh, I don't want to do it because I don't want to feel spammy. You're not spamming people when you're giving them really awesome information and they're excited to open the email. So how do we get people to be excited to open your email? What kind of topics are we talking about in email marketing? How to make email marketing really easy, how to be consistent with your email marketing. All of those key things are pieces of content that I can create that support the content pillar of educating people on why email marketing is important. So you need to like take the big topics and then break it down into like individual post ideas. So I could do a post that's like 7 subject lines for next week's email, or this ChatGPT prompt helped me save 2 hours creating email content this week. So like very specific post topics that I can recycle, because I can keep sharing different email subject lines. I can share different ChatGPT prompts. I can talk about my email marketing creation system, all of those wonderful things, and they all fall into the pillar of educating people on email marketing. But they're all different topics, and they're all what I call evergreen content. So this is something else. I'm gonna call this like a bonus point here, because a lot of people fall into the habit of creating content consistently. And you should create content consistently, but it doesn't always have to be new content. People are like, oh, I've already talked about this, I can't talk about it again. Yeah, you can. Talk about it till you're blue in the face and then talk about it some more, because I guarantee you haven't talked about it enough, because the people that follow you already may have seen it. They may not remember. They may need an additional reminder, or maybe they're new and they haven't seen it at all. So you need to talk about the same things over and over again. You need to pick pillars, content topics, content themes, whatever you want to call it. And you need to keep playing them on repeat, like a broken record, like a child who wants to watch the same movie over and over and over again until you know all of the words by heart, but they still love it because that's what your audience needs. Treat your audience like toddlers. Let them watch the same movie over and over again. Recycle your content. Take a post topic that did really well. So if I'm like 7 subject lines for next week's email, maybe that's a B-roll reel, and you're sharing just having them pop up on screen. Maybe next time it's a reel and you're talking and you're sharing, hey, I got this email this week. I really like the subject line. This is great. You should use it in your next week email. Then put it into a carousel post and have them swipe through the 7 slides to see all 7 of the subject lines. Then you can do like a static content post for it and be like 7 subject lines I'm loving this month, and then list them in the caption. There are so many different ways you can take the same topic and break it into different content types to post again over and over and over again. So like you're not resharing the same reel every 2 to 3 weeks, but you're sharing the same theme. So it makes it easier to create content because you already basically know what you're talking about. You're kind of just recycling it into a different format, and it's going to get a lot easier, especially when you have that B-roll library ready to go. So that's kind of another big piece of it, making sure that you're repurposing the same topics. But in order to do that, you need to know what it is that you need to talk about that's going to help people understand that you are an expert, know what it is that you do, and then start to trust you. And then once they trust you, know how to actually become a customer for you, because you need to move people through like a sales funnel cycle, even on social media. And oftentimes that sales funnel cycle will include additional elements like podcasting or email lists, all those wonderful things too. But if you can get consistently good at creating content on the same theme, then it's going to be just so much easier to create content because you always have a starting point of at least you know what you're talking about. So that's where a content plan can be really helpful. I do a lot of content plans for clients and help them figure out like, okay, we've actually decided that these are your content pillars and these are some of the core ideas that you want to talk about over and over and over again. And then from that, we'll create like a 1 to 3 month plan of how that would actually look in practice. And sometimes I do that. Sometimes the client does that. Sometimes we do it jointly together in coaching sessions. But I find that that's a lot of what people struggle with, having the plan and then the foundation in place to kind of do those things. And kind of tied into knowing what your content pillars are, I see a lot of people that kind of fall into the trap of chasing like trendy audios or trendy reel formats. So you end up creating a lot of content that isn't what I call evergreen. So evergreen means it could be used over and over again at any point in time. So, I mean, there's like true evergreen content, like the examples that I just gave you. Like at any point in time, I can take on an email marketing client. But then oftentimes I'll create content for like a launch promo, let's say, for like a course. So, I mean, it's evergreen content in the sense that anytime I want to promote the course, I can use the content, but it's not evergreen in the sense that I'm not always like accepting enrollments into the course, especially if it's like a group thing where we have specific Q&A times and all that. So, I mean, there's different levels of evergreen, but a lot of people use like an audio clip, and that's great. And it might be really trendy, but it's not necessarily something that you can recycle again in a month or 3 months or 6 months because, you know, the fad has passed. So it's not going to get you the same sort of results. So if you want to use audio clips that you find and you resonate with, or like a really cool reel idea or a transition that you want to use, that's fine. Just make sure that it relates to your business and is hopefully something that can be used again. Now, not to say that every single piece of content that you create needs to be evergreen. There's definitely a great time and place for some of those more fun, trendy, off the cuff types of posts that you're making. And oftentimes those will do really well. They might get a lot of engagement. They might get you a lot of new followers. And they're good to have in your content strategy. But if you are a newer business, or you are a business owner that does not have a lot of time to create content and you're not posting consistently, don't spend your time creating that type of content because it is going to take you longer to create it. And then you're constantly in the cycle of having to create new and more because you don't have that like base of evergreen content that you can use to repost again in the future or recycle the topic into another format, etc., etc. So those are some of the big things that I see business owners struggle with and also do wrong in terms of content creation. So yeah, content creation can be fun and it can be easy, but if you're not doing it also strategically to support the goals that you have in your business, then it's not really helping you. And it makes me wonder why you're spending your time doing that. Like if I spent 3 hours this week creating reels to go with trendy audio clips, that's great. But then that means next week I have to spend another 3 hours creating reels to go with trendy audio clips. Whereas if I had spent 3 hours this week creating evergreen content that I could repost again in the future, then eventually I build up this bank of evergreen content. So you could get to a point where you're only creating maybe one new reel every couple of weeks because you have so much other stuff that you can repost or repurpose or use a caption from, but then change the visual, or use the same video clip again in 3 to 4 months, but then change the caption. Or add a different call to action, or change the hook and see if something else works, then that's great. So definitely those are the three big things that you should consider. Make sure you have a strong foundation in terms of your messaging and branding. Build a B-roll library to make content creation easier and kind of have a template of like a content template that you can reuse. And then make sure that you're spending time have a content strategy in place, and make sure that you spend your time creating evergreen content that fits in your content themes, content pillars that you can recycle over and over again. And then kind of once you get the hang of that and content creation gets faster, or you don't need to create as much new content all the time, or if you want to make sure that you're spending your time creating content that works really well, then I do recommend you try checking out Instagram's trial reels feature if you have it. So you do have to be a business with an account, because it's available on creator accounts and as well. You have to have over 1,000 followers. So you do have to have a bit of an established presence before you have access to this, which I didn't realize until recently, but I have a client with a smaller following and they did not have it, even though I wanted to use it, which was very unfortunate. But I love using the trial reel feature. It's a great way to test different hooks or visuals or transitions. And when you A/B test, like I have a whole episode on this and I'll link it in the show notes because it's definitely worth checking out, or you can read the blog post with it if you don't want to listen to a full episode, and just kind of collect some of the highlight information. But it's a great way to dive into the analytics and really see what works. But when you A/B test, you need to make sure that you only change like one small thing in a post that you can tell, okay, well, this small change helped me get 3 times better reach or whatever it is. So definitely check that one out as well. And we talked a little bit about repurposing content in this episode. So I also have a blog post that shares my key tips for repurposing content. So I'll link that in the show notes for you as well. That's another fantastic resource to help you make content creation easier. But I really, really want to reiterate that content creation doesn't have to be challenging. And it shouldn't take you a really long time to do it. If you're spending more than an hour creating a reel, we need to work on some of the foundational stuff for you, because it should not be that time consuming unless you're like intentionally trying to do like a new transition or something different, and there's like an element of learning and then practicing to like learn the new skill. Okay, that's fine. But if you're creating just like standard B-roll content, it should not take you that long. A lot of people too struggle with the messaging, which I talked about before. ChatGPT is a great resource if you've trained ChatGPT really well to understand your business. So still sometimes I'll be like, I have this great idea for a hook that I want to use, but I'm struggling to find the right words that, is not like a 6-page sentence. I'll be like, okay, this is my idea. Can you give me 5 options that are, 100 characters or less or whatever, and have it help you reiterate and refine, even though it was like your initial idea. I have a ChatGPT, a free resource with some great prompts in it, but then I also have a course that teaches you how to train ChatGPT to work really well for you. So I'll link both of those in the show notes as well. So lots of resources out there to help you make content creation easy and effective for your business. So hopefully today you've learned something new that you can try. And if you'd really like some more support putting any of this stuff in place, if you're like, I don't really know how my branding is doing, or, I'd really or you want some help creating some templates or a content strategy, then send me a message or fill out a form and we can have a call to see what a good fit is. I'm also happy to refer you to some fantastic copywriters if messaging is what you struggle with, because that's not something that I offer. But it really does make a big difference when you can very clearly articulate who you are and what you do, because content creation just gets so much smoother and you get better results from it. So those are my tips to help you create content faster if content creation is something that you feel has been a really big time suck for you lately. So make sure you check out the resources in the show notes and tune into another episode of the Go Get Great podcast. We will see you then.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Go Get Great. I hope you found some useful tips and tricks that can help you make life and business work together. If what I said resonates with you, please share it on social media and don't forget to tag at Brittany Miller Socials so that I can celebrate you for taking those first steps towards achieving greatness. Remember, success doesn't happen overnight. It takes dedication, hard work, and a lot of spirit. So don't be afraid to dream big and go after what you want. Keep striving for greatness. You get closer with every step forward, no matter how small they may seem. Until next time, go get great.